I'm glad to be here with you today, and I'm glad to have Chandler introduce me. I knew Chandler as a student at Utah State. It's fun to watch the transformations. He's all grown up now. He's got a big boy job and everything. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for being here, and I hope you're having fun on your first day of college. Okay, all your classes aren't going to be 8 hours long, so just, don't settle in thinking you're going to have these big, long days. But I'm glad that you're in this class. I'm glad that you're taking this connections course to really think about why you're here. Now, just a couple of things to kind of get us settled in. I promise I'm not going to talk at you for the whole 2 hours, because that would be painful. So I'm going to ask you to talk to me, and I'm going to talk to you, and we're going to do a number of different kinds of things as we walk through this. But I want to just kind of recognize some of the difficulties that are in front of us. First of all, you're toward the end of a long day, and you might be feeling a little bit tired, so I want to make sure that the people in the back keep the house lights on, because we don't want it to get dim, or you'll get sleepy. I'd encourage you to take your phones and just kind of put them in your bags and put them down and put them away so that we can have this conversation. And when you do me a favor, if your neighbor starts to nod because you didn't get a lot of sleep last night, just give them a gentle but firm nudge, right? Keep each other awake. Now, I'm not previewing a boring presentation, but I just want to help you think about putting some of those distractions away and focusing, because I think the biggest compliment that I can pay you as brand new students in the university atmosphere is to have a conversation with you, a really serious and straightforward conversation about what this place is, what it means to be a college student, what it means to be at a university, what it means to pursue higher education. I think it's really important to take a step back and just think carefully about what are your goals and what do you want. And that's my objective here today, is to help you really rethink what you're doing here and why you want to be here and why you made the choice to be here versus all of the other kinds of things that you could be doing right now. You could have gone straight into employment, you could be doing some kind of technical training or apprenticeships, you could be at a 2-year college or a 4-year university. Why did you make this choice? So that's where we'll go today. And I want to start with a saying here that this was given to me when I was a sophomore. And I was really excited because I took this honors class on C.S. Lewis. And I wasn't quite an honors student at that point, but I wanted to study C.S. Lewis. And I wanted to read the Chronicles of Narnia, and we didn't read the Chronicles of Narnia. We read a whole bunch of other stuff. But I took this class, and it was a life-changing class for me. And this is what the professor said at the very beginning. The hardest thing for you to know is the thing that you think you already know. Does that make sense? The hardest thing to know is the thing that you think you already know. The things that are really familiar to us, we just stop questioning because we just do them all the time. And if we can go back and look at the things that are really familiar to us, then we can understand why we're doing what we're doing, and we can align our behaviors if our behaviors and our intentions don't match up. I want you to do this with college today. Now, you've been doing school for how long? Yeah. You've got 7 hours already in today on top of like 18 years behind you, right? Your whole life has been school. So you know this, right? You know books, syllabi and classes and teachers and papers and tests and math and English and science. Like, you've done all of this, and now you're coming here and you're doing a little bit more of it. So your college experience can really feel like just more of the same. But I want you to be able to pull these things together, and I want you to do that for a couple of reasons. First, if you look at national statistics, in a 6-year period from when a group of students like you start, in 6 years, just less than 50% will graduate. That's too many people who start college and don't finish. That's too many people who put in too much time and energy and effort and money into their education and then don't finish. And my goal is to help motivate you today to get to the finish line and to think about the finish line. Think about what's happening to you at the end. Now, there's a lot of reasons why college is hard. It's a long, slow burn. A lot of reasons why some people might not get through. But I think one of the reasons is we kind of assume that it's something that it really isn't. Now, I've been in college for 21 years straight. 4 years as an undergrad, and 6 years as a graduate student, and 11 years as a professor. I've been doing this a long time, and so I know what college is, and I know how it works. I know what it can do for you, I know how it can be life-changing and transformative for you. And I also know from my own experience as a student and from watching lots of others, you can actually engage this experience in ways that will help you not meet your goals. You can engage college in a way that will work against your best interest, that'll keep you from the dreams that you have right now. So, can you come with me and think about, okay, what is this place and what do I want and how do I get there? Okay, so the first thing I want you to do with me is to think about why you're in college. Now I want you to take a second, and I want you to turn to a neighbor in groups, and don't leave anybody out. If somebody's being stubborn and just kind of sitting there, like reach your little group around. I want you to talk for a minute about why you want to be in college, why you chose here, why you chose a four-year degree, and then after you've done that for a minute, I want a bunch of volunteers to come down to these microphones on the ends, and I want to share some of these whys. So I'm going to start over here, listen carefully, and as you're listening, listen for the reasons and what resonates with you about why you want to be in college. Go.
All right. Is this on?
It is. We can raise that up a little bit. There you go.
All right.
Britney Spears style.
I've just always been really curious about everything. I really like to learn, so I thought college would probably be a good place for that. To learn what I want to do with my life.
Yeah, feed your curiosity. It's good to be curious when you're in college. Okay, we'll go over here and then we'll go back and forth.
So I actually came here specifically because I don't read just from looking at a piece of paper. I have to physically be doing something in order for me to understand it. And I know that here, that's all you guys teach. So I came here specifically for that.
Yeah, to be in here with the relationships and the people that can help you do that. Very good. Yes, sir.
All right. So basically, I just don't want to be working at the same job I'm working at right now. I don't want to be like making this much money, you feel? But yeah.
Good. How many of you would like to make a little bit more money in the future than you make right now? That's a good, so yeah, that's a good reason. Yes.
I decided to go to college so I could make a better future for myself and have a job that I enjoy and love to do and want to go to work.
Yeah, better future, have a job in the US. Good.
I'm also making a better future for myself. The reason I'm going to school is so I can get educated, talk to people, go on a mission, and then the game plan is to have a job that I can provide for myself and a family. So my end goal is marriage and a family, and I can't do that without education.
Nice, very good. Thank you.
So, for me, I'd say knowledge is power, and knowledge brings more opportunities in order to find a good job. And personally, my goal is to be a father, provide for my future family. So that's what I'm here for.
Nice. Very good. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm here to prove that I can make a better life for myself and prove to my family that I can.
Yeah, make a better life and prove to your family that you can do it. That's good. How many of you would like to, going to college and finishing feels like I'm going to do something really hard and prove it to somebody? That's a good goal. I like that. Yes, sir.
So, I decided to come to college because I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I have a lot of different things pulling me in different directions, and I wanted to go somewhere where it really encourages kind of exploring yourself and figuring out what your passions are.
Yeah. Figure out what you're going to do. I hope you realize how lucky you are to have this space where you can kind of have a bit of a timeout, where you can do all this kind of work at this kind of an institution. Because not everybody gets this chance. Not even half the college students in the country get a chance to be the kind of place that you're at. So good. Yes, ma'am.
I try to make it a point to learn something everywhere I go, and I feel like college is a good place to do that because I guarantee if I talk to every single one of you, I will learn something different, so I just want to learn.
Good. That's a good one. Yes, sir.
I came to Dixie because I heard it was a party school.
yourself while you're at school. Again, one of the lucky things that you get to do to have a space to live in that, because not everybody gets to do that. Very good.
I, like, to be completely honest, I'm just here because my mom said I had to go to college. Sometimes I'm going with the flow, but I do know in the future I want to be able to open new doors and have a lot more opportunities.
Yeah, but this is important because isn't college kind of an expectation? Does it feel? How many of you feel like it is an expectation? Yeah, so that's important. Thank you, sir. Give him a round of applause.
I'm majoring in secondary English education. I'm a first-generation college goer, and I feel really passionate about the impact of literature, and I really hope to inspire that same kind of passion in future generations of high schoolers.
Good. Thank you. How many of you were the first person in your family to go to college? Like nobody's graduated yet in your family. Yeah, a lot of you. So put your hands up high again. For those of you who are first generation college students, I want you to know that there's a lot of people in here that are in that same position. And it's okay to ask those questions. That we have all these silly acronyms at every university with all these kinds of things. That's an important thing to do, and remember that it's okay to ask those questions. Yeah, very good. Last one here.
So at college you have a lot of opportunities because everyone here is looking for opportunities, and the teachers are looking for opportunities for you. And it really, really sucks trying to learn things online, and you can't get any certifications for watching YouTube videos.
You don't get certifications, yeah. So, thank you. So I'm lucky here today because my good friend and neighbor Sage is here. She's like as cool a person as you ever find, and Dixie State's really lucky to have her here. We were out having some ice cream last night and catching up. I was telling Sage, isn't this like kindergarten where everybody wants to make friends? Like it was like, hey, do you want to be my friend? Do you want to be my friend? Hey, let's be friends. Like everyone's looking for these networks and opportunities. And some of the people that you meet during your schooling are going to be the kind of people that connect you to jobs and relationships and careers and other things. And it really is a great place to be with other people. Now, regardless of your reasons for being here, and there are many, I want you to think about why you're here. Because without a compelling why, the what and the how doesn't really matter. If you don't feel like you've got a good, compelling reason to be here, then we can tell you all the what's and hows. How to study and work hard and eat well and take care of each other and be safe. And we can do all of these kinds of things. But if you don't have a good reason why behind it, then a lot of it's not going to make sense. Now, sometimes our why in college gets a little mixed up. Now, it is important. You talked about wanting to get a good job and preparing for a good life. Those are important. Kind of the freedom and the growing up and the independence that comes with going to college and all of these kinds of things that you want to do. These are really good whys, but I want to take a minute and kind of narrow this down. Because when I went to college so I wanted to get a good life and have a good job and didn't want to be poor like I grew up. I didn't grow up in poverty, but I was poor when I grew up. I had just enough money to eat and, took care of myself from when I was like 15 years old, like buying my own clothes and doing my own thing. And I wanted to be able to be in a situation where I could make more money and have more career opportunities and do things that I couldn't do growing up. And that really kind of pushed me. I really want to go to school. And that why is important because it makes you get through all the hard moments and get through the long part. But sometimes that why of I want to have a good life and get a good job can obscure what college is really about. What it really is about. Because it is about that end goal, but I want you to think about this just a little bit differently. So, first of all, to do that, I want you to ask good why questions. Why questions are a plea for meaning, right? How many of you are forced to take piano lessons as children? Like first world problems. How many of you at times felt really frustrated that your parents were making you take piano lessons, right? And how many of you said, why do I have to do this? I don't want to play the piano, right? So this is just one example of all the kinds of things that the parents will make children do when they're growing up, and why do I need to do this? Right? My high school boys are like, why do I have to fold my clothes and smell good? They're not quite to the point where they haven't gotten there yet, right? So anytime you have a why question, it's a plea for meaning. There's something you don't know. So if you don't know what some silly acronym is on campus, or you don't know why you have to take a certain kind of class or do a certain kind of thing, I want you to ask your teachers. I want you to ask your professors. I want you to ask your advisors. I want you to ask those questions. Because why questions are important, and they will help you move forward. You do not want to ever feel stuck. Now, some why questions are pretty common. These are two why questions that were common to me as a student. I asked them when I was a student, and I've heard lots of students ask these as well. Why do I have to take classes in things that I'm not interested in? Why do I have to take classes in things that I don't see connected to the job I want to get in the future? How many of you have asked yourself those questions? Right? You just went to high school. You've done math and English and all these other subjects, and now you're going through a lot of this again. These are good questions, and they have really good answers. But sometimes this whole idea of like, I'm going to go to college to get a good job and have a good life obscures those answers, and what that does is it creates a situation where you feel really frustrated with the university for doing exactly what it's designed to do in the first place and to give you exactly what you need to thrive in the future. Now, I'm going to walk you through some ways to think about this. And I'm going to do it with some learning I did with our student athletes where I work at Utah State. Because I get invited periodically to come and speak to them about the Becoming a Learner book and taking advantage of education. The first time I went, I was like, this will be great because I'm an athlete, and so this will be a good way for me to connect with them. And I can test out some of my ideas. So here's me at the pinnacle of my athletic career. I'm tall, look at that. This is an almost 12-year-old Matt Sanders, budding John Stockton. See those nice short shorts I had there? Yeah, I'm a cutie, aren't I? So here I am, like I loved playing sports and I loved playing basketball and I was super bad at it. I just had lots of enthusiasm and I wanted to grow up and be a professional athlete like lots of these people, but I just didn't have any of the skills or abilities to do that at all. Right? So I'm standing in this auditorium, there's like 100 plus Division I scholarship student athletes. And in my experience playing sports was like everyone paid their $25 registration fee, we all got treats at the end of every game and trophies all around, right? Self-esteem for everyone. That was my experience in sports. So I was meeting with these athletes and I wanted to just test this idea of if you have a compelling why, does it make the what and the how easier? And is it really, how important is it to know why you're doing what you're doing? So I want to put this to the test. So I asked them a broad question. Why does an athlete have to do so much exercise and training? Like, why can't you just have a scrimmage on Wednesday and all play on Saturday? Why can't everyone be conference champions? Right? Trophies for everyone. Why do you spend so many hours and so much time when your game is only going to be like a couple of hours? Why would you do this? And I asked them some very specific questions about exercises because I went to the gym once in college, so I know all about it. Literally, I went once with my best friend, he was a PE major, and we worked out, and he said, this is going to be great. It was the worst experience I ever had, and I never went back. And I became a professor. Have you done this exercise in high school? Or anything? You put the weight on your shoulder, and you go down to your thighs go parallel to the floor and back up again. I mean, it's hard enough just to squat that with your body weight, right? But let alone put weight on your shoulders. It's really miserable. It feels like the floor's going to fall out from under you, or your spine's going to snap or something. And then it's worse the next day, right? Because your legs just hurt. And I lived on the 3rd floor of an apartment building. So I was ouch, 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 all the way up and all the way down. And the university that I was at had a huge set of stairs that all the students had to walk up, so I had to have to walk up like 140 steps. Really painful. And I've watched a lot of sports and recreationally played a lot of sports, and I have never seen anybody do that in a field of competition. That does not happen anywhere. Like, that is not Donovan Mitchell's go-to move, right? Like nobody does this. So why on earth would you spend your time doing it? And what's the point? So I got all these quick hands went up. So this young man on the offensive line was like, look, I have to protect the quarterback. I have to open up space for the run. It's a really big battle on the line of the football body. I need thrust and force and power, so I do this exercise. I asked him, is it fun? No. Does it hurt? Yes. But this is why we do it. Volleyball players are talking about jumping, and basketball players about jumping, the lateral movements, all these things with your legs. The track, like lungs and legs, that's their whole business, right? Soccer, running, kicking, bursts of speed. We need really strong legs to do this, and this is how we get this. Now, I want to point out, they didn't stare at me for 20 seconds while they were thinking of some answer. And I didn't get any flippant questions like, well, this is what my mom did when she played ball, so I guess I'll do that too, or this is how coach keeps us out of trouble after school. I mean, none of these silly answers. They were just like, boom, this is why we do this. So I got brave. I asked about a bunch of things. I asked them about the bench press, which is basically like a guillotine. Anybody done this exercise? Like, why on earth would you take as much weight as you could possibly push it up and down in front of your neck? Like, that's stupid to begin with. Have you been in a gym when somebody didn't have a spotter on the bench press and they're yelling for help with their windpipe's cut off, right? Like, this is a dangerous move, and it hurts all the way across your chest and shoulders. And I've not seen anybody, like, that's not going to happen in the NFL, it's not going to happen in the World Cup soccer, like, nobody does this. So why would you waste your time on this kind of an exercise? And again, I got these great answers. The softball players are talking about strong chest and shoulders to throw a ball and swing a bat, and the basketball players and the football players are talking about throwing. And the lineman's talking about this battle for space and this strong upper body. And the gymnast holds her whole body up on her shoulders. The bump set, spike, and volleyball, all these reasons. This is why we do this exercise. And I asked them again, is it fun? Do you like it? Like, no, this is a really hard exercise, but we do this. So then I asked them about running, because I hate running nowhere. I hate running somewhere too, but running nowhere is even worse. I mean, this is kind of how, like, I got punished in high school for goofing off in a gym class, right? You get made to run the bleachers or run ladders back and forth. Like, why would you do this? And I asked some specific sports about this. Because some sports don't run, like volleyball. Like, it's the game you play on beaches and backyards, and you just kind of play and laugh. And, like, nobody moves anywhere, right? That makes volleyball players mad, by the way. Softball bases are 60 feet apart. And most of the time you're just standing there. I asked the lineman on the football team why they would run. Because if you're a lineman and you're running in the game, you're on ESPN Top 10. Right? And it's not because you picked up a fumble or scored a touchdown, because that happened all Saturday long. It's because you were physically running with the ball. Right? Oh my goodness, look at that guy, he's running. Right? Basketball court's 120 feet long. Why would you need to run for an hour straight? Fair enough question, right? Here, again, I got the answers. They said, look, if we want to be the ones that are celebrating, holding up the championship banner, if we want to be the ones celebrating at the end and winning, we have to play harder at the end of a game than we do at the beginning. We need lots of stamina, lots of energy, lots of wind, and you might not think that volleyball is a running sport, but everything we do is constant, perpetual motion that burns a ton of energy. So this is why we do all of this running and running and running and running and running. Like hours and hours of it, conditioning their bodies. Again, quick, automatic answers. Without a compelling why, the what and the how doesn't really matter. I can tell an athlete to do all these exercises. Lift weights, run, stretch, all of these things. These people had a compelling why, because these things don't happen in their games necessarily. So, what's the answer to that question? Why does an athlete do so much exercise and so much training? Far more than they ever spend in a game. Well, the answer for them is to thrive and flourish. Regardless of what they face, what the competition is, whatever happens, they know that in the course of a game, and you've all played sports in some way or another, right? They're going to make tens of thousands of physical and mental decisions in split seconds. And they want a mind and a body that's capable of doing whatever it needs to do, whenever it needs to do it. Right? They're going to do all of these kind of things, and they want to be athletic, and they want to thrive and flourish in their field of competition. I thought that was a really good answer, right? This is why we do that. So that's the analogy that I lay out here about why are they doing all of this. Now, We could also do another analogy with music. Like, why would you want to learn the piano? Why would you want to learn chord progression theory? Why would you want to learn all these other things and play all kinds of music instead of just learning how to play one kind of music? It's the same kind of thing. Like, why do we do all of these things? So, now let's direct this back to you. Your first few years of college, you've got general education, and even those of you who are in very specific majors, you're still going to study really broadly. Why do we have to take so many classes in all these different subjects and take classes in things that you don't want to, you're not going to use in your job necessarily, or you think so, right? I'm going to be an engineer, or a teacher, or an accountant, or a nurse, and so therefore I don't want to do these other things. Why do you have to do that? These are fair questions. The answer for you is the same it is for the athlete. When you come to a university, you're here to learn how to thrive and flourish as a human being that several of you talked about in your why. You're here to learn how to learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's your goal at the university. At the university, we're teaching you habits of mind that allow you to enter the world and do really great things. Does that make sense? So think about this. When we ask you to study math, what are we doing? We're asking you to lift some weights. When you study math, you're learning how to think quantitatively and analytically and solve complex problems. It's not just that it's calculus or trigonometry or whatever. You're learning how to think in that abstract way. When we're asking you to read tons of books and write lots of papers, we're asking you to lift weights and we're asking you to run. That's why we want you to study in the humanities and the social sciences and the physical sciences and the life sciences. We want you to study about American institutions. We want you to do your composition classes and your quantitative literacy classes. We're asking you to study all over. At a university, the primary goal is not just to get you a first job, although we care about that a great deal. Because your first job is going to be the lowest paying and least interesting job of your whole career. And you'll like your first job. You'll be excited about it, but nobody gets in their first job, just like right now, you're like, I'm set for the rest of my life. I don't want to make any more money. I'm good. Right? You're going to get in that first job and you're going to want to grow, and you're going to want to grow, and you're going to want to grow. We're not preparing you just for that opportunity, but your lifetime of opportunity. So think about this for a minute. What is your world of work going to look like in 30 years? What's it going to look like? You're going to spend your life, your career, working with technology that you haven't even seen yet. Things that haven't been invented, or they're in some lab somewhere in Silicon Valley and they're building artificial intelligence or virtual reality or something, and we don't have it yet. Like, I'm 42 years old. I've sent my first email when I was 21. I think I browsed the internet the first time at like 22 or 23. That's not that long ago. I'm not a really old man. But that whole internet just changed everything that people have done. That's going to happen to you because it happens about every 30 to 40 years. And your world of work will change. You're going to be using technology that hasn't been invented yet, solving problems that we don't have right now, and responding to political and social, cultural, economic conditions that haven't arisen. So the university is preparing you for an unscripted future to solve all kinds of problems. And that's why you're here to learn how to learn, to become that educated person. Now, when you think about that why coming together, and some of you said, I just feel like I'm expected to be here, or I don't know quite why I'm here, but I feel like I really want to be here, or I want to get that good job. This is what happens to a lot of students, and this happened to me for a long time. I was so focused on that job that everything that the university asked me to do that was outside of that job, I felt like was a burden and a waste of time. When in fact, all of those things are building you into the kind of person you want to be. So you look at the latest survey, 2019 data, of what employers want from college graduates, and they line up exactly with general education outcomes. You know what the first thing they want you to be able to do is communicate well, verbally and written. They want you to be able to talk with other people and write and speak clearly. They want you to analytically solve problems. They want you to be able to work with people who are different than you. And every class that you take is preparing you to think this way. So I want you to think about this university as a gym. Now, I can go and get a membership to a gym, and I can pay my money. And I can get some cool stretchy pants and other kind of, cool gym clothes, and I can show up. But if I show up with chocolate chip cookies and chocolate milk, and I avoid the trainers, and then a couple years later, I'm like, that is the worst gym in the world. Don't go there. I'm unhealthy. They totally took my money. That would be an absurd thing to say, right? But yet sometimes people do that with a university. They'll say, I want to work. I want to work very hard. I want to do these things. And they don't feel like they're changing. But when you go to a gym, what do you pay for? Do you buy health and fitness? You pay for access and opportunity. Access to the people and the places and the processes. Like Danny Lay said over here, I can only do that here. Access and opportunity. Access to the people and resources and the opportunity to do it with a whole bunch of other people who are just like you. Everybody in here wants the same kind of thing. You get to do it together in a community, which is a huge blessing and opportunity. So when you take a class, you're doing the same thing. You take something you don't know, you learn it, you master it, you're assessed on it, and then you do that for 5 classes a semester, you do that for 8 semesters, and you're done. You'll be a different person at the end. That's why graduation is so exciting. That's why we call it commencement, because you're just beginning. But when you graduate, you're going to have this piece of paper, but guess what? Everybody who graduated has that same one. You're different at the end. And that difference is what everyone's so excited about. But that comes if you embrace this idea. So I'm glad that you want to be here because you want to have fun and be independent and find a career and develop yourself and all these sorts of things. But if you come in here and that job focus becomes so narrow that you forget about everything else, you'll actually keep yourself from becoming the broadly educated person that every employer wants you to be. So let me tell you a quick story. My brother-in-law works on Silicon Slopes, and they're in Lehigh, up on the Wasatch Front. And they hired 3 interns. And do you know what they nicknamed the 3 interns? They didn't tell the interns these nicknames, by the way. Sleepy, Dopey, and Grumpy. Do you want to be Sleepy, Dopey, and Grumpy? He said, Sleepy just sat there in his chair and was half asleep all the time. Grumpy got mad every time we asked him to do something, and Dopey broke everything we gave him. Right? And couldn't figure things out. And you got these companies, and they've got college graduates coming in, and they're like, we need you to be a really broadly educated and smart person. That's what we need you to be. And if you can't communicate well, I don't care if you know all your stuff, we're not going to hire you. And all that stuff comes from all of the things you do at the university. That's the opportunity of your education. To build yourself into the kind of person that can do whatever you need to do over the course of your life. And that's why when college graduates change jobs, we don't make them go back to college. They're already broadly educated people. That's why the state of Utah invests so heavily in your education. The state of Utah pays $6,000 per student per year. That's the average of funding across all the state institutions. You're all here on scholarship. You're not paying the full cost of your attendance. The state's paying that because they believe in you and they want the payoff that comes on the other end if you'll do that. So that's the opportunity of your education. That's what I want you to see. And if you can have that why, I'm here to become a broadly educated person, guess what? Broadly educated people fashion great careers. They do wonderful things. They make a huge difference in their family and in their communities. That's the goal. I'm going to be a broadly educated person who wants to be an engineer, or a nurse, or a teacher, or a poet, or whatever it is that you want to be. I want to be that broadly educated person because that's what people are looking for. Now, that's kind of my core message here. Well, we're in college, and you need to ask questions. You need to ask hard questions. So I want to put you into groups. I'm going to give you about maybe 7 minutes. And I want you to turn to your neighbors, and I want you to come up with some questions that you want to ask me. And I want them to be hard questions. Because I don't expect that you just have to listen and be like, yeah, okay, that's fine. What don't you understand, or what do you disagree with, or what doesn't make sense? What do you want clarification on? I want you to spend about 7 minutes kind of talking to each other and waking up because we're getting a little bit sleepy. And then we'll come back for questions. So ready, set, go. One of the important habits of mind of an educated person is to ask good probing questions of the things that you learn so that you can make it your own. So I would invite some of you to start coming down and ask me some questions. And I know that's going to take a little bit of guts and courage at the moment, but come down and ask me a question. What you don't understand, what you disagree with, what seems confusing, what would you like clarification on? Question.
So, when did you learn
When did I learn how to learn? That's a good question. So let me just tell you a little bit of a backstory about the book. It's a short little book, and I was 3 weeks from graduating. And I was looking for jobs, and I was getting ready for graduate school. And all of a sudden I had this moment of panic, like, I'm the least qualified and the least experienced person who's applying for these jobs. I don't have any of, like, when you go to your first job, you will be the least qualified and least experienced. And I realized that I had missed out on a whole bunch of stuff. And then I got kind of mad that nobody had talked to me about this. And so I had moments where I've been good at learning, and there's moments where I've been kind of a fussy baby about it. But when I got into graduate school and I just took everything as I'm here to learn as much as I can, my ability to do things just went like this. Part of my hope in doing this is that you can not have to go through that your own process. But there's things that you love to do, and you're a really good learner at it. And there's things that you don't love to do, and you're not a very good learner at it. So part of it is learning to embrace it that way. So we all have it in us. I don't want you to think that somehow it's like on and off. We're all on a continuum. You all know how to be really good learners in certain contexts. Now it's how you can do it in all the contexts, because now you're being trained. Does that make sense? Good question. Over here.
Looking back at your college experience, would you do anything differently, and would you give advice to us?
What would I do differently as a college student? I would not be scared of my professors. I know all your high school teachers told you that, was that a professor that just clapped? They don't care about you and whatever. Like, you're in a great place, and I would make relationships with my professors. It took me too long to do that. They're the people that are paid and who care about you a great deal, and I would be in their office, and I would meet them, and I would get to know them, and I would take harder classes. I would ask who were the hardest teachers on this campus, and I would look to take classes from them. Because you'll be better for that stretch. That's what I would do. Don't be afraid of your professors. You say hello, and you say goodbye, and you say thank you, and you get to know them because you need them. And they need you. Don't make your professors be lonely, So I would say that. Question?
All right, so you talked to us about the importance of becoming this well-rounded kind of Renaissance human, which I agree with. And what I was just wondering, if that is the case, how come so often we just see curriculum and stuff built around more of this kind of just filling in a box or, checking stuff off?
Yeah, this is a good question, right? Because not all classes are taught perfectly. Sometimes they don't connect to your learning style. And as teachers and administrators, we need to build the curriculum around that. So I wish I could wave a magic wand and just change the curriculum in a lot of your courses. But what this tells you is, how can I be a learner in a class where I feel like they're just asking me to memorize a bunch of stuff? Right? How do I engage that? Now, there's a couple ways you can do it. One, you can get after it with some genuine curiosity, and the other is you can go ask your teacher. But what am I supposed to do? I feel like I'm just memorizing information. I know that's not your intention. How do I get more? So you can ask the teacher to help you understand what the curriculum is, instead of assuming that you might know. Because that teacher might have a real reason for what's going on, but you don't get it yet. But that doesn't mean that every learning environment will be perfect. And you're going to be in some big classes that might be hard, or you might with a teacher whose learning style doesn't match. And I've been asked several times, like, what about these hard things? Like, well, your work life afterwards is going to be, you're not going to have perfect bosses, you're not going to be in perfect organizations, you're not going to be working in perfect processes. So dealing with some of this hard stuff that doesn't work so well could be a great learning tool for you. But if you find yourself in that kind of a class, I would be in that professor's office as soon as I can, asking the questions, how do I learn better in this class? You watch what happens to your professor's eyes when you ask that question. They will remember you forever. They will love it. That would be my answer to that question. Thank you.
So, in your personal opinion, what's the most difficult part about changing yourself to become a learner?
The most difficult part about changing yourself to become a learner. Like I answered this question earlier to this other guy about, it's easy to learn and be a learner when you really care about something. But it's hard when you're sitting in your chemistry class or your history class or whatever subject it is that just doesn't ring true to your heart, right? And you're like, oh, I'm so excited to go to this class. So that's the hard part is I need to learn this. Like I need to go and take a literature class because when I study literature, I develop empathy. I learn how to put myself in someone else's shoes. But I don't want to read Charles Dickens, or I don't want to read, I'd rather read this. So you get given a set of books that you don't want to read, or that you wouldn't have chosen yourself, and to just tackle that and say, okay, I'm going to do this thing. Instead of just saying, I only want to do it because I want to do it. That's the hard part of being a learner. We all know the easy side of it. But there's that moment, I'm not the most mechanically inclined person, my pipes are leaking under my sink or something, and it's just like I don't want to do it. But I've got to get on and YouTube or call somebody. I got to do something and figure out how to fix it. That's the hard point. That's that steepness of the learning curve. So push yourself through that. Because once you get that, then you can have that natural curiosity that makes you awesome at everything. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
So you said, I think the statistic was around 50%
Mhm.
college students don't finish. So what can we do as students to continuously have drive to be a learner throughout our college experience?
How do you have a drive to continue this throughout, right? That's a really good question. Have your end goal in mind, right? Have your end goal in mind, but have that be, I'm going to become a really well-educated person who's studying engineering or studying medicine or whatever, right? So that's part of how do I stay motivated? It's why are you doing this? But also understanding that these things are supposed to be happening to you. If you're always I don't want to do this, 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 you're going to run out of steam. It was like a little engine that could, right? So part of it is just recognizing that's happening. But the other thing that keeps me going is relationships. You need to make sure that you're connected to your professors, that you're connected to some of your friends, so when you have those really hard days where you get a test back that's not good, or you're cracking your head over chemistry or something, and you can just complain to that person, right? And say, this is hard, and they can bring you along with them. The more isolated you are, the harder it is to continue. And have some fun. Go do whatever it is that makes you happy. When you live you're living in one of those beautiful places in the whole world, right? If you're feeling stressed and burned out, then get in your car and go to Snow Canyon or go to, all these places, do something. But it's hard and it's a long haul, and you need people to help you along the way. Put that end goal in mind, right? So let me give you a little quick thing. The best financial advice that I could give you is to finish your degree. If you finance just on loans, let's say you borrowed the whole amount for your tuition here at Dixie State, it'd be less than $25,000 probably, something like that. The average college graduate earns $1 million more over their lifetime than somebody with just a high school diploma. How about that for a financial investment? 25 in and $1 million out in 45 years with no other investment. That's a pretty good deal. So think about this is my end goal. This is where I'm going. Yes, sir.
So I read your book, and it's about becoming a learner. Why is it so based on this college students and college students? Why can't it be based on better themselves? Become a learner at any point in their life, even when they're 80, they can still become a better learner and better their life from there.
You're right. Why can't this be for everybody? It is for everybody. I wrote it for college students because I'm a college professor. But let me tell you about my best friend growing up, who didn't like school. So I remember this one day, it was raining and his mom picked us up at school and we're sitting in the car and it was report card day. And she says, Matt, what was your GPA this quarter? And I wasn't like a straight student. I was like, oh, I got like a 3.65 or something. And my friend was like a 2.0 student. He's got C, didn't really like school. And then she's like, Dusty, why can't you be more like him? You know, like just, you want to jump out of the movie car. He's one of the most brilliant learners I've ever seen. Has a successful like oil and lube shop, does all this great stuff, but he learns everything. He's the guy that watches and asks questions and learns and reads and does everything. So it applies to everything you do. So my goal in the book for you is you've entered a university. You have a specific goal, so this is how this process fits in for you right now. But the learning only just begins. It's just beginning. When I finished my PhD, I turned in my dissertation. It was a 200-page study. It's like I only had one more ritual hazing to go through and I was done. Right? Culmination of like 5 years of graduate school. And I go home I turn it in, I go home that weekend, I teach my son to ride his bike, take the training wheels off. We had this great experience. I had lunch with my advisor the next Tuesday. He asked about my weekend. I said, oh, we took the training wheels off down on the bike and it was cool and it was fun. And he's a big tall guy and he kind of pushes himself back from the table and he smiles and he goes, that's what we're doing with you, Matt. We're taking your training wheels off and giving you a push. And I'm like 11 years of college and I'm in mushroom helmet, like, ooh, kid going down this. But you know what? That's exactly how I felt on the first day of my new job. I can't believe they just gave me this job and I'm doing this stuff. And everybody feels like that in their new job. It's just, so that learning curve is going to happen all the time. You're right, in every situation.
So when you were at like this point in your life where we are today, where did you see yourself and what changed?
Where did I see myself at what point?
Like today.
Today.
When you were our age.
When I was your age, I wanted to be an engineer. Like my first days at college, I was going to be an environmental engineer and do all of this stuff. And then I met chemistry and some things that I didn't like. But early on in my career, or my college career, I just wanted to be a teacher. I liked college and I wanted to be there. So I had this goal, like I want to be a professor. And I said it. A lot of you have goals right now that you know what you want to do. But I just had to keep that in mind. So that when there were those really hard days, those really hard classes, I had something to look toward that helped me out. But it doesn't matter whether you know, like my wife knew exactly what she wanted to do when she started college, and she did that, and she graduated in it, and she worked it, like, it's a really straight line. It doesn't matter if you go in that straight line or if it's wiggly. You just have to have an endpoint that you're dreaming about. That gets you there.
Okay, so this is more of a logistics question. You can laugh at me for not knowing this. But like, I know how to apply for scholarships, but if I get a scholarship, hopefully, where does that money go? And then how do I use it to pay for that? And then also, like, where do you recommend to look for scholarships beyond just like Dixie State Financial Aid and their website?
Well, that's a very university-specific question that I don't know the answer to, but I want you to be the person that asks you. So where's your teacher? Okay, so you go to your teacher and you say, I don't know this. I got to figure it out. Now, your teacher might not know it all, but your teacher's going to know somebody, and you go through. It's like being like customer service at, Verizon or whatever, and it might feel like that, but this is a really good question because all of you have a ton of technical questions, and you want an answer to it. Your teacher is the first place you go. If I had the answer, I'd give it to you, and I don't, so I went and found the person that I told you to go to, and then you're going to move it like that. Does that make sense? Yes.
So earlier you talked about like getting to know your professors so that it would be like easier to like come up to them when you really do have questions that you need to have answered.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you keep that balance of having a professional relationship with them, but also having that familiarity you need to like get to know them?
Yeah, because you want it to be a professional relationship, and you don't want them like hanging out with you, and you don't want to hang out with them, right? Because it's all weird. Honestly, it's just saying good morning or good afternoon and telling them thank you after a class. Going in their office and saying, hey, this is who I am, and I'm in your class, and I just wanted to get to know you. And Like, there's nothing like unprofessional about any of that, right? It's just that introductory kind of stuff so that you know them and they know you, and then you feel more comfortable later going and getting help. Instead of the first time you go and actually speak to them is when you have a problem. That's what you don't want to have happen. So I spent the first couple of weeks just stopping in for 5 minutes. Hi, I'm Matt, I'm in your class, and I'm excited to be here. This is where I'm from, this is what I'm studying, you know, and tell me a little bit about it. It's just like, I just want to meet you. I just want to know you. We say thank you to people who hold the doors open for us, and bus drivers, and servers at restaurants, and then we get into our class, and the teacher's there, and we walk in super silent, we don't say anything, and then we leave. And you know, being a professor sometimes in front of a class can feel kind of lonely that way. I think it's just the basic kind of stuff. And when you need help, go see them. I think that's all you need to do. And when you email your professor, just say, dear Professor so-and-so, don't write, hey, comma. Okay, that's just, professors they tend not to like that, hey, right, or jump in, or you can address them by name. But it's just the easy stuff, just the simple stuff that greases the wheels of just a good professional relationship. Pretty easy.
So, you talked a lot about not really having the money and the job aspect be necessarily the antagonist of what we're doing here. But how necessarily do you balance the idea of studying and finding what you're passionate about and keeping in mind what the future is? Like, what if you're studying something or you want to study something that you have no idea about how a career in that field works?
Mm-hmm. So first, statistically, like 90% of employers don't care what your major is, right? So a lot of you are going to study things that aren't directly tied to a job, but there's lots of work out there. So I want you to kind of keep that end goal in mind, but it's not all about, sometimes we get caught up in, okay, I need to figure out, like, I don't want to study this, am I going to make money, am I going to, I don't know that that's the best way to go, or to just say, like, I got to find what I'm passionate about, like you're trying to find your one true love. Like, I don't know that that's a good metaphor for, like, a job. Because it's probably not going to be your one. I mean, I love my job, but there's times where, like, I left my job, I came up here for a few days before this presentation, and I'm just on a vacation because I was sick of my job. And I wanted to get away from it for a few days, right? So, I like the idea of designing your life and building a career that's meaningful for you. But when we get so caught up in, like, my job's got to be everything to me, I think you're going to have a family life and community life, and hobbies, and work. So the thing we get at when people say study what you love and what you're passionate about is because you'll be a really good learner at it. You'll really know how to engage that, and that process will teach you something. But that's okay to be weighing out, like, what are the career prospects here versus the career prospects there. But that's not a fair question for most of the majors. What are you going to do with that? Like, that works for nurses and engineers and accountants and teachers, but it doesn't work for business management. It doesn't work for humanities. It doesn't work for biology. Like, so there's a lot of places to go. So that's where you sit down with your professors and have that conversation. I love studying chemistry, and I feel really good at it. And I want to study it, but I want to know, like, where are the branches that I go off of this to find careers and passion in life. Those teachers know what those routes are because they watch lots of students do it. That's how I would take the conversation that way. But think about it in broader terms, right? Because if you don't do something that you really like, there's going to be other people doing that thing, and they're going to be really good at it because they like it. And they're going to kick your butt at it over and over again because they just love it. That's in all fields. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Last question here.
How many times did you change your major and what was the reason you
How many times did I change my major? I don't have enough fingers on my hands. At Utah State, the average student changes their major 3 times before they ever step foot on campus, right? Because they're, like, changing all the time. And this whole idea of, like, your major is not a destination. It's not a sentence, and it's not a vocation, and it's not a calling, right? I changed my major tons of times. I was going to do engineering, and I was going to do history, and I was going to do psychology, and I was going to do, I just did a bunch of stuff. I majored in English, ultimately, so I could learn to write really well. Each time though, I was looking for something else. So just as important as it is to know what you're doing, it's important to know what you don't want to do. Because if I went down the engineering route and I said, no, that's not me, and then I could just take that off the table, just kind of sorting it through. Nothing wrong with that process. Do not feel like it has to be a straight line. Life goes like this. And you'll end up in a major, you'll end up in a career. So be comfortable with those changes and don't stay in a major just because you feel like there's some stigma against changing it. If you're tired of it, do something different. Now, you need to be thinking about how you get graduated in a timely manner. But part of it's just the discovery process. And I was okay with that. I changed it a lot. It's okay. Yeah. You're 41? You're back to school. Good. Give her a big round of applause. Yeah, so you get here, and all of you are like this, you get in this point where you're like, okay, I don't want to go any farther, now I need education to broaden myself out. And you come. And college isn't a race. If you need 5 years to finish, then finish in 5 years. If you can do it in 3, do it in 3. If you come back later in life, that's totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with how you do that. But once you get that college degree and you finish, you can do all kinds of things without circling back. So it's always a great time to do it. So thank you very much. That was a great question. Great response. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to put you to a task. And you've got to be fast. You've got to be relatively fast at this task. I need teachers to pair up their classes. And I'm going to give your class until 3:30 to come up with a skit, jingle, rap, or some other kind of creative 30-second thing that reinforces some principle that you've learned today. Okay. College is a time where you come here and you're really excited and you're also kind of scared and you feel like you want to just kind of stay protected and in a tight space. And one of the reasons we do this kind of an activity is so that you can kind of feel what it's like to just relax a little bit and let your hair down and take risks. There's no growth in being in a safe spot where you never stretch. And for some of the people that got up here, the stage is still pretty natural, and some of you were forced by your peers to be up here. Either way, there's some great growth that comes with being able to kind of reach out and do things that are hard. So a couple of things that are toward the end of the book where I talk about courage and humility. I just want to end with these invitations. I encourage you to please be courageous in what you're doing, to ask questions when you don't know the answers, to get up and stretch yourself and do something that's hard and new and different. That will make all of the difference. Because when you look back on your college experience, the things that will matter the most were the things that were the scariest and the hardest. And please be humble as you go about that. Because when you're humble, you'll be willing to ask questions and learn. And you'll be able to learn from your mistakes. And you'll be able to figure things out. My hope for you is that in 4 or 5 years, when you're finished, your parents are going to be screaming and blowing air horns and holding up signs, and you'll have your cap and gown, and it'll all be exciting. But the excitement will be because you've become something different. That you've taken advantage of the education, all the good things that you did, and all your successes, and all the challenges that you got through, and the struggles that you had that you overcame, will be all part of who you are at the end. So please recognize the blessing and opportunity that this experience is for you. I hope you'll embrace it with everything you have and make it the opportunity that you want it to be. So thank you very much.